Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, okay, okay. Oh, keep him out of there. Holy cow. Holy cow. Wasn't expecting him to dig that hard. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh my goodness. Whew. That fish there had its Wheaties this morning or something. Jeez. Holy cow. My goodness. Holy cow. Oh. That is a much larger fish than I had any expectation of hooking into over here. Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. Try to keep him out of the snags the best I can. Oh my goodness. Oh, he's in a branch. That happens every time. Oh, he's still on. He's still on. Okay. For now he's on, but he's on a branch. Will he come out of it? I don't know if he will. Oh, that ain't good. Oh, I don't like that. I don't know what he's on down there. Oh, but I can see him. So I'm gonna try to get myself in a position just to grab him if I can. There we go. Oh, nope, lost him. Okay, come here. Come here. Come here. There he is. Holy cow. He's in my hand right now. I don't know what he got in. I pulled him over to the right side of the kayak because I didn't want him getting in. You can see what's over here on the left where he was trying to go. Oh my goodness, I am so glad I stopped to fish this hole because what I just said, it's not a hole. I've been skipping over this spot all year. I've even pulled up to this location on previous trips, dropped a bait, and realized how shallow it was and moved on. I mean, we're in maybe a foot of water here. But obviously this fish was hanging out, hanging out up here. So it's not a huge fish, but wow, that gets you excited when you sit on a spot and you think nothing's gonna happen, and then it does, and you've only got a foot, maybe a foot and a half of line out. When you've got that much line out, it does not take a big fish to tow you around and take you for a ride. And that's what this fish did, and that's why I enjoy fishing this way so much. So enough of me talking. Anyway, I'm gonna get this fish. It was wrapped around something. I don't know if it still is. I think it may be, but I'm gonna get it in the kayak here and we'll do our best to get a picture with it. Oh man, holy cow. Well, there's sort of a look at it there just in the bottom of the kayak. I haven't unhooked it yet. Like I said, not a huge fish, but definitely a respectable fish, especially for catching in a foot, less than 2 foot of water. I think what I'll do, I mean, it is a nice enough fish. I'd kind of like to get a picture with it if I can. I think what I'll do is just try to paddle over. I'm looking at the banks here. There's not a lot of great banks for accessibility in this location, but may just try to go find a location that I can get up on the bank and get a decent picture with this fish. All right, found myself a spot on the bank. We're gonna pop that hook out. Holy cow, and he did a number on that hook, guys. I'm going to show you this hook when I pop it out. Wow, we were pretty lucky to get that fish. Look, can't see it real well. I'll show that to you in a second. He did a number on that hook. Let's get it. Let's get some pictures with this fish though, and then I'll show you that hook after we get him released. All right, guys, there's a look at that fish for you. That's a really very solid flathead. Not as big as the others that I've caught this year, but not a bad fish. And the crazy thing is that I've passed on that location so many times already this year. Less than 2 foot of water. It just goes to show you, you never know where these fish are gonna sit. If there's enough water to cover their back, don't pass on that location. Take a minute. I only had a bait down for 2 minutes or something like that, and this fish hit. Take a minute to fish those locations. I've learned a lesson out here today. I'm gonna be doing that. I'll be spending a little bit more time, be a little more thorough out here on the water, and hit some lesser looking locations, and hopefully end up catching more fish that look like this. I'm gonna get this guy released, and then I'll show you what he did to that hook. He kind of did a number on that thing. Get out here in the water a little ways with him. And it looks like he's ready to go, but I'm just gonna sit here with him. Sit here with him for a minute. You can see, like, when I loosen my grip on that fish, right when I put him in here in the water, he's trying to swim away. He's ready to go. I'm gonna hang on to him here for a minute and just let him catch his breath. Let him kind of recover, and let him go on his own time. So I'll let him just sit here and breathe for a minute and go when he's ready. All right, guys, it's been a little while now, just been a minute letting him sit here and catch his breath. I'm just gonna give him a little nudge, and I suspect he will swim right off. And there he goes. Always have a lot of fun catching these fish. It's always a really enjoyable time to land them and to get pictures with them. But I always want to make sure I do the very best I can to be as quick as possible on the photos, and make sure that I'm if I have plans to release the fish, make sure that I'm releasing that fish in as healthy of condition as I possibly can. So I feel good about the release on this fish. We got our pictures real quick, got the fish back in the water, let him kind of recover, catch his breath, swam off on his own, no problem. So feel good about that. I had a lot of fun catching that fish too, so I'm sure glad I got him. I want to go take a look at that hook, man. I want to see what he did to it. And that's what happened to that hook. I don't know what happened, just speculating. I would guess that whatever that fish kind of got hung in there for a minute, he did eventually end up coming free. But whatever he was hung in there for a minute, I would suspect worked its way down to that fish's mouth and where that hook was, and bent that hook that way. It's crazy to see what that fish did to this hook. And I mean, I can see from looking at that hook how close I was to losing that fish. Whether that hook got straightened, if that hook had bent just a little bit farther, it would have been essentially straightened, and that fish would have come undone and been free. Or even if the hook wasn't bending, anytime you get wrapped around a snag or a tangle like that, and that it works its way down to the fish's mouth where that hook is set in their mouth, that fish is still down there pulling against it. So when you've got the fish swimming one direction and you've got a branch or whatever they're tangled on pressing or pulling against that hook in the opposite direction, works just like your hand. There's a great chance. I've got a gnat on the dang camera lens. They've been attacking me out here today, and my face, I can feel how swollen my face is from having them bite me. But anyway, anytime you've got something working against the hook when it's in that fish's mouth like that, it works just like your hand. It's just a matter of time before that fish pops free. So we were close, very close to losing that fish. We were fortunate to get it landed. And had we had a situation where that fish didn't get itself free from the tangle, and if it had been deep, and I think it was shallow enough, I could have just grabbed it. I mean, that fish was very close to the surface. We were so shallow over there. But knowing how shallow it was over there, if I wasn't able to just grab that fish with my hand, I probably would have considered just getting in the river and going after it. Because when you're working against that fish with your rod and reel, pulling against it, that just adds pressure. Whatever you're tangled on, it just increases the likelihood of popping your line or popping a hook. So I was starting to think about, okay, what am I going to do if this fish is in a position to where I can't get to it? But fortunately, it was shallow enough over there I could reach it while it was on the tangle, and actually in the process I think that fish kind of came out of that snag and I was able to get it landed. So that's enough of me kind of talking about the situation. We caught one good fish. Let's go see if we can catch another one. I don't know how much more time I have out here today, just because it has been extremely hot these past few days, and it's supposed to do the same today. We're talking 105 plus, extremely humid. So it doesn't feel bad down here yet this morning. I got out here early and trying to beat the heat, so I'm going to continue to fish until it's so hot that I feel like I need to get out of here. But in the meantime, I'm definitely going to tie a new hook onto this rig and probably put a fresh bait on as well and just go see what other spots we can find. Okay, I have paddled back to this same location where I caught that fish, not intending to fish it again. It's sort of common knowledge, I think is accurate, that flatheads, larger flatheads especially, tend to be somewhat territorial. You pull one good fish off of a spot, you're not likely to get another one. I tend to kind of ignore that sentiment that after you catch a fish you should just move on. Just because I'm already on the spot, I may as well drop a bait and just see what happens. There's always exceptions to the rule, and especially if I'm fishing a little bit larger hole where there's a little bit more room. I don't know, I just feel like it's worthwhile to go ahead and put another bait down. This location, I'm not going to do that. It's a really small location. I had that fish on it. It's been a little while, since I landed that fish, released it. I kind of want to move on and see what other locations I can find today, but I wanted to come back and just show you exactly what I was dealing with so you can get kind of a sense for what type of structure that fish came off of. So this is all the structure in the water that I was fishing, and this is kind of what I look for when I'm looking for something to fish. I'm looking for some kind of structure, some feature that gives these fish an area they can move up into during the day to lay low and have some cover. There's not a whole lot to this one. It's just a branch, just a tree, a fairly small tree that's fallen in the river, and some logs that have sort of got caught on that tree. But the only structure that's really down in the river is this one tree, and then there's some other smaller branches, I'm sure, that are down there in the water with it. So not a lot, but definitely enough to warrant stopping to fish it. But the reason why I had contemplated moving off of this spot, and actually why I've passed this spot on previous trips without fishing it, is because of how shallow it is. I didn't anticipate that there would be a fish in this location, or if there was, I was thinking it would be, like a small channel cat or something like that. So I kind of put my paddle down there and give you a sense for how deep the water is that I was fishing. Maybe a little bit deeper than what I had given it credit for. That water line is right here where my thumb is, so maybe just a little bit over 2 foot there. So a location like that, and when I'm fishing the way I do, I like to suspend my baits directly underneath the kayak. So I'll drop my bait and then reel it up, so my baits they're not typically very far off the bottom because I fish so shallow, but somewhere between 6 inches to a foot probably off bottom. And so when you're only fishing in about 2 foot of water, your bait's sitting there about 1 foot deep. It just feels like you just don't get optimistic in that location. It just doesn't feel like a spot where you're going to catch a big fish. That fish I caught, I don't know, maybe it's an anomaly, but I don't think it is. This is an extremely shallow river. 2 foot is about average for this river, and I fished the structure. 2 foot's enough to cover the back of that fish. It doesn't need more than 2 foot, so it's something I learned today, and maybe something you all can learn from the trip as well. Oh, Well, we finally had one. Looks like he just didn't quite have the hook. That's a bummer. That bait's pretty well bled out, but I ain't gonna be out here much longer, so I'll just rehook it and send it back down for a few minutes. Got a small fish after it, but that's a pretty small bait that I put on there. It may have it. I want to just see if it's big enough to. It might have it. Oh, it's a turtle. Oh, and it let it go. I'm glad it did. Holy cow, and look what it did to that bait. That ain't been long. And all the meat is gone. The only thing left is the gill plates. Alright. Well, guys, I think that might be a sign that it's about time for me to call it out here. I've been sticking in the shade because it's hot if you're in the sun, but when you're in the shade, it's bearable. And so, you know, I'm having fun out here. I'm still having fun out here. So as long as I'm having fun, I figure I may as well stay out here and keep fishing. I've just been looking for locations that get me in the shade and keep me out of that direct sunlight. Well, I'm finding a lot of small fish, turtles that are just stripping my baits off the hooks and doing damage in that way. So, and I haven't caught any additional fish since I caught that nice flathead this morning. So I guess what I'll do is probably call this the close of the video. If I do happen to catch another fish, then what I'll do is just add that on here at the end of the video, and if not, we'll call this the closing. And you know, again, only caught one fish out here this morning, but I'm sure glad I was out on the water and I had an opportunity to catch that fish. It was a good quality fish. I had a lot of fun catching it. I learned something out here today, and that's the way that these trips tend to go for me. I don't come out here, and I say this all the time, I don't come out here expecting to catch numbers of fish, but I always come out hoping to get a good quality fish, and that's what happened for us today. So I'll be back out again soon, and hopefully we'll get on some more nice quality fish like we got on this trip. And I appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you in the next one.